with just the emphasis.
Okay, we're now broadcasting, I believe. So I'll make a test to make sure this thing is working and we have volume of some kind.
Just the emphasis.
Yeah, there he is. Okay, Anus. All right, so that's working. Let's see if everything else will work. I can leave this running. Yeah, so it's going to be a little weird, but
Oh,
a
yeah.
little weird
Hella
always
weird.
fun. All right, so all right, so that's good enough. I think we'll live with that. I like it.
I like the
uh,
title. I just got notified that one of the YouTubers I subscribe to has gone live with some sort of anus. That's
yes.
weird.
Well, that's not my fault. But
Oh,
anyway,
well, of course.
I guess it proves I will talk to anything. But anyway, all right. So, all right, go ahead. You have some spiel. You may spiel.
All right. So I'm glad that you're desperate enough to talk to me. Thank you for that. Um, who am I? Well, there's a simple and at the same time very complex explanation for that. If the fourth wall and the uncanny valley ever had sex, I'd be their illegitimate abortion. So you've got a complete picture of me now. Um, as for the topics we were going to discuss, I mentioned something about logical fallacies and me expanding the list a bit. Or, well, to preface it perfectly, there are not as much logical fallacies than simple arguments, but I'll go into those deeper. Also, the list is pretty littered with holes and imperfections. I didn't sink as much time into it as I wanted, but yeah, I'll still, at some point in our conversation, I'd like to read them point by point and uninterrupted if possible. And you can poke holes into them later, right after that.
Well, I don't know if I like that agenda, but anyway, we'll see what we can do. I
Okay.
just don't see the point of going through 40 fallacies when only like three of them really matter. So we could have a conversation about what are the major errors people make in the processing of their existence. What single
Yes.
facts are the most critical ones that they miss, and therefore everything else just turns to shit because they've just lived their life like a bug because they don't realize, hey, being a bug is stupid.
Yeah,
So
it's just the meme that this Immanuel Kant started. He failed to recognize that it should actually be I feel, therefore I am, and there's a whole crux behind that, I guess.
yes, and then the I am should be something like, um, and I'm a fucking crocodile because that's all biology actually makes is different forms of crocodile. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Or
a predator
something.
prey kind of world, and um, even inside your own clan, there's predator prey behavior. So the whole thing is predator prey, which I would argue not recognizing that would be one of these gigantic fallacy things. Like if you have escaped having to deal with the fact that you're basically a biological monster, then you've escaped a gigantic fact and you're therefore in trouble in terms of getting anything right.
You're right, random chat person. It wasn't Kant, it was Descartes. Thank you for correcting that.
But Kant basically um, followed along with everybody else's jargon. So, I mean, cunt was basically just a cliche minor.
Well,
I mean, the very
um,
idea of I think, therefore I am is just such mush when you really think about it. I mean, because it really doesn't make you an I am. Thinking is just word association. That's a Google
yeah,
algorithm. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly, exactly,
Google algorithm and I am? I don't
exactly.
think.
that's where the thing started. Do you know the fiction titled "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream"?
I don't do fiction.
Okay, could have, you know, you.
Well, even if I did fiction, I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have bothered. I mean, you're semi-obscure in terms of your references for life. Like you just gave a description of your life, and it was completely. I was like, oh, you're half banana peel and half. If banana peel and a sidewalk had sex, you would be the illegitimate abortion or something. It was just,
Yeah,
I couldn't. I didn't understand your two references, so it was like some kind of chess move.
Okay, it wasn't even references. It was basically jargon. But whatever, people out there are gonna get it. Some of them.
Some yes. One in 987 of them will understand what you were saying, but
maybe
they'll be as dumb as me. I'm not sure. I'm sure. As ignorant. I won't say dumb.
Aren't you kind of sometimes arguing that that's the same thing?
No.
Like if you instill enough, intensely enough knowledge into a thing, it's gonna get it. That was my impression.
I guess I would just say that if I was going to give dumb a more broad definition than ignorant, I'd say dumb is belligerently ignorant. Okay. So, all right. So the dumb are not even trying not to be ignorant. They've closed the door to being unignorant. Okay. They just say, I do not want any of your unignorance.
So to close that thing off, I would suggest a more refined quote or a better quote, which should from now on always be, I feel, therefore I am relevant. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, well, I probably have a video that actually is titled something like that, because
probably
I've exactly said those words, that it should be, I feel, therefore I am, because that's the only thing about us that's at all interesting as a necessary fact. Everything else is superfluous dance moves. You know what I mean? I mean, it's, it just doesn't
There's
have
a caveat to that, since am means as much as existing, not this experience thing. Existence is not experience. I would put it that way. So I am a pen. A pen still exists, even if it doesn't feel, but it doesn't qualify as a human. So there's a different, there's this distinction that you keep discussing about.
Well, I like the idea of the I am equals, so you just say something like I am is an equivalency. And that's all we're really trying to do is measure our words with equivalencies. And so you're trying to find an equivalency between something like a noun, okay, and an adjective or a verb or something that describes that noun as, and so I'm very focused on describing these nouns and attaching them to what I would consider to be value verbs. Okay, you are something in the world. You are shit. You are bad. You are garbage. You are, it's a verb, though. It's not really
Yeah, it's a state of doing.
Yes, exactly. And that's the real fact of your life. And we add up the doings and we get another equal sign failure, deficit. You are a fucking blood-sucking loser vampire piece of shit,
Yeah. I am.
I didn't mean
one more thing.
It was metaphorical, but okay.
I know. I was just.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, dipping into that. I had weird dreams, specifically featuring you. I don't know if that's too intimate for you or something. You appeared in my dreams.
A lot of my dreams. So I mean, I feel your pain because I'm in a lot of my dreams.
So the gist of it was, we were in an apartment complex, and you semi-accidentally introduced me to this Czech female video producer who also runs a home cinema, and that home cinema featured one of my favorite movies, and there it kind of stopped. But you know what confuses me about all that? The things that actually appeared in my dream were collectively more mundane than what happened, than what actually happened 2 hours later. Someone on your stream asking the question, is that gay porn? And that actually being the case. That was collective, weirder than the collective happenings in my dream. That was strange as fuck.
Yes. Well, stuff does happen. I'm sure she was an axe murderer, whatever. Sort of, she was gonna, grind you up bad. So it's good your dream ended, because those are the only kind of women I send other people.
Nice.
Well, yes, it's just a quirk I have.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yes, exactly. Take no recommendations from me regarding females. Okay, it'll do you no good.
If you ever have to, vacate your place, and I already told you may live with me in Austria, not Denmark. Yeah, so if you ever end up in that situation, us living together, or
your little snowbound white world. Oh, I can't wait.
Well, it's not that bad. Come on, we have disgustingly hot summers, and
yeah, it's
I know
65. Wow. Oh, it's an heat wave. Well, I mean, it's whatever, 17.
But it's interesting to see your memory process on that, right? You just remembered, ooh, somewhere cold, and then you try to recall it, and it was automatically Denmark, like one of the coldest places near me, right? Relatively near me.
Well, whatever.
Okay. You've mentioned something about 3 kinds of fallacies being relevant. I mean, or just 3 of them, period. I actually agonized a little more over my list, and there are really 3 kinds of arguments that are kind of grouped together. So one of them, one group would be the reality or physicality arguments. One of them would be stylistic arguments, and one of them are breakdown arguments, for the lack of a better name, or dramaturgic arguments, if you so want.
Yeah, I think all those titles suck. So, but anyway, go ahead. What's that first one? What's a realistic argument?
Okay.
Fallacy.
Yeah, that's like, well, I can't put it in any more detail. I'll let you figure out the connections between them, if that's okay with you.
Well, I mean, I don't understand. So you're saying it's a fallacy, but you can't describe it, but it's an important fallacy?
I can't summarize the connections in one elegant sentence, right? So, except in the title, they're connected to physicality, right? The limits of physics, so to speak, or the approach of them.
Well, I mean, I would argue that I guess the idea of these, the idea is to put things in more rational categories, that are more explicit, not categories that are more ambiguous. So,
Okay.
my first argument would be, is one of the intelligence fallacies, okay, is that intelligence takes explicit things and makes them noisy. Okay, puts them in an explicit context. So that would be, it would be fallacious or idiotic for somebody to think that's a productive thing to do, is to make something less precise. So you always want to go from less precise to more precise, not the other way around. And that's a mistake a lot of people make, is they go from a specific statement about a problem and then they turn into a generalization, which means that now it's not as big a problem because they took it out of the context that made it obvious that this is unsustainable, let's say. So I could say that global warming or nuclear bombs are, world stabilization or some kind of, some sort of hugely important subject gets minimized, okay, because, people take it out of its explicit, this is unacceptable category and drag it into, oh, well, we have so many other problems and there's all these other problems. No, those aren't problems. The problem is that you can't have any of the other problems if you don't fix this problem. All the other problems are blown up.
Okay. Well, we are kind of limited by our vocabulary and the things that I'm gonna mention in a minute. So,
well, vocabulary is a great word. So we could play with vocabulary for a while if you don't mind, because to me that's what it's always all about, right?
Exactly, it's all semantics.
That we don't have a nice explicit language. We have a garbage language.
Exactly.
And you can see that, I see that all the time in the physics conversations, in the sense that they have these preposterous wave particle dualities, and and it's just like neither one of the words mean anything anymore, right? Because they turn the particle into a wave and a wave into a particle, and and then you start talking about coaxial cables and ropes and all kinds of other nonsense, and you're saying, what the fuck? The subject is, what is this thing? And see, that's another example where I'm saying they've taken something specific, words that actually meant something, and they've turned them into generalizations, which are, well, it could be this, or it could be this, or it could be all of this crap. And so the word doesn't mean anything. So we could go through all the really important words that mean something to people, love and honor and respect and blah, 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 blah. And none of those words have any more meaning anymore, because all the effort that was ever spent to give them explicit meaning has been turned into a bunch of, oh, it's just generally this fun feeling. Oh, it's a fun feeling. Oh, yeah.
It is a problem, but
that says so much.
It is a problem, and also not as big a problem. And there's this, I think if I just simply read them out loud, you might get where I'm coming from, at least that, right? Because you can mentally follow even a retard, okay? So you want to do this?
I don't really want to, but we'll try it. I just don't see. I think it's way too much vernacular, but go ahead, give it a shot.
Okay, so I'll start with the shorter lists. Maybe they make more sense in the graspable realm. One of them would be the argument of aesthetics. It has rules, therefore it has merit. That's a fallacy, right? I mean, essentially, like flawed logic. That's all it is. So, argument of beauty, it appeals to me, right? That's rule set plus individuality. Therefore, it has merit.
Well, that's okay. Well, I'll just qualify that one just because,
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't even bother, because we already covered that with anything subjective. So we already know that subjective sources of evidence are suspect. So you're always looking for something that's verified by more than just your brain. Okay, so anytime it's my brain says so, I have to say, well, why does my brain say so? Does it say so because it can corroborate the story, that is, somebody else can be witness to it and validate the judgment? And so clearly that we know all of that. And the word beauty is not a rational word. Okay, it's an irrational word. So it doesn't belong in any rational conversation, because it's not only is it completely based on subjectivity in almost every use it's ever been used in, it's too ambiguous to mean anything. So fuck it. It's a useless word.
Okay. Got it. The next is a similar one. It's the argument of confidence. If it doesn't waver, it has more merit, right?
All right. Well, confidence, I like that word, just because that word you can tie to evidence. So you can make the rational argument that if you were a juror at a trial, you have no right to be confident that the guy's guilty because, well, look, he's a nigger. You know, I mean, you can't just sit there and find something superficial, say, I'm confident he's guilty. You know, you've broken the rule. So confidence is really important. Why are confidence, and what's the integrity of our confidence? Would we put our balls on the line? So if we're going to convict the guy, would we sign a piece of paper that says if we're wrong, we get executed?
But you can't drag the general public into the completely logical realm. You have to kind of tie those two together, I guess.
You have to drag them there. So yes, you do. You have to. You know, the only question is do you drag them hard or do you drag them soft? But the point is, you have to drag them there.
Yeah, effectively.
You just don't want to kill them in the process of dragging them,
or hurt or harm.
No, that's you got to do some hurting and harming to train things. Okay, you're just not going to train dumbasses with, you know, love.
Okay, here's one I like. The argument of infamy. It has resistance, therefore it has merit.
Okay, well, I agree that just because something's courageous doesn't mean anything. Bravery doesn't mean anything. So I would argue that, yes, that's almost the confidence argument again, right? In a sense. But that's just saying bravado doesn't mean anything. You know, the image of I'm in control, I've got this done, when you're an incompetent pig. You know, yeah. So it's almost the same as the confidence argument. On an emotion.
It needs a second component, right? It's the confidence of the other side.
Well, I could break it down to a real common cliche, and I could say might doesn't make right, right? So we could say that's the might doesn't make right fallacy.
That's actually the opposite of the argument of power, which I'll get later to. You know, the might is right fallacy. It's one of the stronger ones in the sense of what's actually happening, as opposed to what should happen. You know, what we are doing here, we're figuring out the should parts.
Well, what is the fallacy of what is what should be? It would be an idiotic fallacy. So yeah, of course.
Of course, the fact actually that here.
We're doing the best we can fallacy, you know, in the sense that can, in the biggest sense of that word, like all the possible outcomes, this is not the best outcome. You know, we're somewhere less than the best.
So the next one is the fallacy, which is the argument of intimacy, right? I know it well, therefore it has more merit. So,
well, I know it well, therefore it has more merit.
I'm closer. No, I'm sorry. I'm closer to it is the argument of proximity, and it falls into the physicality.
All right. Well, that one's only dangerous just because, yes, some proximity does qualify you. Some proximity corrupts you. So that's the difference between being close and being corrupted, or being paid off, or being one of them, or blah, blah, blah. But being a spy would, yes, I have proximity, and yes, I'm gaining knowledge, but I haven't been corrupted by what I'm gleaning energy from, however you want to put it. So I guess it's just the difference between exposure and toxicity. You know, like there's over there. It kind of depends on what you're getting, whether you're gleaning information or you're just being irradiated. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's a blurry line, I guess.
Yeah, so that's all I'm saying is that you can. Half of that statement is true, and all of it. I'm just saying that it's sort of a good fallacy just to recognize that corruption, that exposure, can have both impacts. It can enlighten you, it can empower you to do good, or it can just irradiate you, make you toxic and a retard.
In psychology, it's called a mere exposure effect, right? You grow to like something, even if you don't like it at first, even if you dislike it very much. It's used to describe catchy songs, you know, some summer tunes.
That's like anything where we could understand that we always have to be cautious of our addictions. So I like baseball more than I like football. Well, for any good reason? No. Okay. Or I'm addicted to a substance, or I'm, so obviously exposure, that's just something you have to know as a thinking person that it's dangerous. And then you're back to subjectivity, because those are usually all subjective, personal biases and prejudices that shouldn't be part of your evaluation as a philosopher.
Yeah. Should and is, there's for example simple things that we keep forgetting as thinking machines. For example, the fact that we keep forgetting, right? And there's always some cracks to slip in, some corruption, and you can only you've got some tweezers, right? And you have to take the trash out, all the plastic bottles and all the moldy bread and all of it, just using tweezers.
That's my primary point, is that's the first fallacy, is this vocabulary problem, because that defines the precision of the conversation. And that means, can we actually, with these stupid vocabulary, actually pick up something and make a distinction between garbage and something, recyclable? We can't do the separation we need to do because the tool of our vocabulary is broken. So first we have to get rid of words that aren't real, like random and spontaneous and all this bullshit language that
you're gonna love that.
Just corrupts it all.
This is a perfect segue, first off, into the video I teased sometime at our last chat. I teased the video I'm in the process of making. I haven't touched it a single time in the last week, but that's exactly the topic. Our languages, ineptitude, basically, and how to mitigate that with technology, ideas, and so on. But more about that in a week or so, maybe. So that's a perfect segue to the breakdown arguments, and I'll just list them. Maybe you'll recognize the pattern there. From big to small: the dramaturgic argument, the semantic argument, the melody-symbolic argument, the fractal argument, the geometric argument, the cute argument, and the simple argument. Is there a clear line visible for you?
No. Okay. As you just say something like the cute argument, we're just back to beauty, we're just back to subjectivity.
Oh, no. Cute means something else in my experience. I think I distilled it down to, let's call it, for the lack of a better word, beautiful, comma, with something off. That's what I noticed about cute throughout.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that's a distinction without a difference for me, because I'm just saying they both fall into the category of the subjective crap. So all the subjective crap you just get rid of with one fallacy. So I'm just saying you have a recognition that all of these subjective impressions are all suspect. They have a low probability of defining any. They have low truth value. Okay, low correlation to truth value, and that all of them are suspect. And then if you're going to make a rational argument, it can't have something in it that has to do with some reflexive, subjective feeling. That's just automatically dangerous territory.
Okay. I just tried to find a way to identify problems quickly, right? That's why I want to put them into a comprehensive list that you can easily remember if you incorporate it. And I think those are some of the most dangerous and prevalent, and may they be subjective, but they're still there and need to somehow be addressed in an understandable manner for even people like me. So do you want me to break them down real quick? Break down arguments.
I'll still just make my argument that I don't see the necessity to break it down into those categories because the one category covers all personal testimony. Okay, so we already know our personal narrative is not necessarily a good source of information regarding what takes place in a life. Okay, our narratives are Jedi stories, they're bullshit. So we're not supposed to be talking, okay, in an intelligent manner, exchanging personal narratives. We're supposed to be talking about what the actual things are in the world and what we can equate with what and all that crap. So I'm just saying that that one fallacy, in my opinion, covers all of those.
Yeah, you could cover it under a stylistic argument, as I put them as a category.
Well, I'm just saying I like the word subjective, or I like the word personal narrative, or I like some other kind of word to describe the fact that it has to do with the fact that we are reflexive physiological organisms, and our physiology has opinions, and the opinions of our physiology are rubbish. So if my physiology is made nervous or upset, you know, that really isn't information of any value.
I just wanted to, how do I put this? Just a minute. I call this the Jordan Peterson. It's people love it when you're physically exhausting yourself, or you look physically demanded by thinking. I guess that's part of his shtick, the Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, he always looks a little stressed. So.
Yeah, but I think people like that about him. It gives an impression of humility.
Oh, I thought it was that it just made him kind of look like a nervous girl, and so they were going for that.
But you don't think those mechanisms are connected?
Yes, I think they are connected. That's exactly my point. I think like all these MGTOW people that are horny for Jordan Peterson are horny for him because that's my kind of woman.
Oh, I would love to talk to him about trans issues or something like that, or just, I mean, I have a different perspective on trans people. Like I basically exclusively enjoy them in porn.
Yeah, well, you can go ahead. I mean, to me, it always looks a little bit fake, to tell you the truth. So sure,
but I'm not. You're such an enemy of the fake, but we're gonna get to that.
But I'm also not a whore for porn, to tell you the truth. So
Well, I'm both. I'm a whore, period, and I'm a whore for porn. So yeah.
I like the stories my brain makes up more, I guess. So I'm just saying I can do it better. I make better movies in my head, so I watch those.
Yeah, I have a problem with my third eye. Like it's not really working. I mean, it's how do I put this? It is sometimes sufficient, but it's actually physically demanding. I literally have to do a Jordan Peterson to conjure images in my head.
Well, this is part of your anus problem, is that you see, if you start trying to construct it out of detail, then it all starts to fall apart because your brain is too busy trying to worry about, well, what color wallpaper should I put on the wall?
Exactly.
So you're getting lost just because you structurally don't know how to produce a film. So you just have to change your production values, and then you'll be okay.
On the other hand, I could invert the whole process, and at one point in my life, I actually aspired to make a cartoon, right, an anime, and I wanted to incorporate stuff like how do you darstellen? I'm sorry, I'm brain farting constantly on language today. How do you show something nebulous and obscure as the Augengrau? Do you know what that is? The Augengrau is the thing that you...
So loud, no. Why would I know that? Why would I waste neuron on something called an Augengrau?
Augengrau. It's the thing that you see when you close your eyes, right? And I wanted to actually explore how to show that on screen because I'm that genius, right?
Well, I just don't know. Yes, it definitely would be anime because my Argan growl just right now was like a big dagger going through your fucking head. Why did he say that? Why is he saying that in my room? How dare he, Organ growl? Fuck you, cunt.
I'm sorry, that's just like Schadenfreude. It happens to be a German word.
It doesn't matter. Yes, it's Jordan Frauder. Yo, I just happened to satisfy all my needs when that guy died. Well, okay, fine. If that's a real thing, fine. I'm just saying, I'm not learning the word. Fuck you.
Okay, okay. I'll try not to violate you with jargon from other.
Yes, I know some of this stuff is like something real philosophers actually use these terminology, but I'm just saying, yeah, screw you. I'm an American. Speak American and fuck you. But go ahead.
As if my accent isn't American enough, right? With my Austrian background, there's a little hint of Arnie anyway.
No? Yeah, well, that wasn't exactly my organ growl, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't your gripe. I know. I covertly changed the subject.
Yes, to try to associate yourself with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not even close. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but in the funny way, in the dorky way. Come on, give me at least that much credit.
Well, yeah, you're the Arnold Schwarzenegger of nerds. Oh, okay.
Well, see, actually nice.
You're not even wearing glasses, so now that doesn't even work. So putzes, it's like you're the Arnold Schwarzenegger of putzes. But go ahead, Putz. I mean,
I'm not a tumor. I'm not a tumor. Okay, you happy now? Was that American enough? Attempty American-y?
Again, it wasn't your accent I was griping about, but anyway, go ahead.
All right. So
your performance issues go deeper than that. But go ahead.
Thank you. I know that. I'm here to, do something about that. I'm sharpening my razors here and yours, but you don't even know it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I'm not going to get it. I'm going to be irradiated more than I'm going to,
No, we've already established that you're a finished product. You're basically Mr. Manhattan.
Well, I'm just saying it is. I'm sorry. The agenda isn't as complicated as people think. So I'm just saying, yes, it was really easy to figure out how to walk. Oh, I have to just step on these 10 stones and I'm done. Yes, that's all it is. It's 10 stones. You step on them, you're done. The game is over. It goes game over. You win. 75, jujubes, whatever. Blah, blah, blah.
But that again leads to the one thing that I distilled it down to in our last chat. The one thing, the argument of truth against the argument of power.
I still don't see. Sorry. Yes. No. I'm not. That's not the duality I see as the problem, because to me, both of those. I mean, truth is really nice. So yes, but as we're discussing, truth is made out of this process. So it's just a process to get to the truth. Power is fucking bullshit. So yeah, I'm not really interested, because in my opinion, if you have the truth, you have all the power.
Yes, but the key word being all.
All right, you have all that matters for a philosopher. I'm just saying. Yes, the world is made out of assholes, and so that, to me, it's a whole different subject about how, once you have the truth, how you get other people to walk the 10 steps. But again, walking the 10 steps doesn't have anything to do with power, in my opinion. It has to do with, again, a procedure. Like, how do I train all these idiots from all these different backgrounds how to do left, right, left, right, left, right?
I'm sorry, I'm following the chat a little. It's intriguing. Someone said at this consequentially truth versus power, and then truth equals power. Both lightning. Yeah, lightning.
Yeah, I don't know where. Oh, truth versus power. Yeah, well, I'm just saying that, first off, I don't like the references that are tied to Nietzsche, and that's too much of Nietzsche's will to power bullshit and all this other crap, which I really can't stand. So, I'm just saying the word power, I just, I have a collective reflexive reaction to that word, like I do love or some other word that, in my opinion, is not well enough defined to mean anything. You know, I mean, you could argue that the idiocracy has power, but does it? I
Yes.
mean, it's just, you know, it's not power from authority. It's not power from earning. It's not power. It's just circumstantial power. So why should I? You know, it can be broken so easily. All I need is one celebrity, you know, to say you're idiots and they'll get it. You know, their power is so defeatable. Their balloon is so burstable in terms of their majority voting power, you know.
I don't know if it's that fragile because if you think about the odds, how many people want to fix things, want to get things right, and then in the process uh, do something that's corrupted in and on itself, and they don't know it, or it's not recognizable until 30 years later, or um, they kind of give in to the selfishness like just at the right moment. And I think there is complexity to that, and the way the sheer network of excuses and subversions in people's heads is quite complicated, I would argue. So you have to shoot
And
out of all cannons.
I think the world turns on bullshit. So I'm just saying that what you know, you could just talk about the destruction of the Soviet Union, how you change one little fact and it doesn't happen. You know, all these, it's just such a subtle look. I mean, Donald Trump right now has committed more crime. You know, no president in the history of America could be guilty of 10% of what Trump has done and still be president. So it's
In
clearly
my
an
point,
arbitrary-ish kind of definition of what's acceptable and what's tolerable and what people will accept. And so clearly the unacceptable becomes acceptable, which really is a dramatic change. And it all happens for a completely idiotic reason, which is, you know, bigotry or whatever, the motivation of hate and all that kind of crap. So I'm just saying, you know, it's a trivial a trivial circumstance is making a critical decision. So that's the power. But I'm saying I don't want to give that the word power, because to me that's the power of a retard to crash a bus. That's
exactly,
not
but it doesn't
that's
make
not
it less real.
power that has any kind of credibility. It's just power from circumstance. Power from circumstance is not, in my opinion, the same as power where you had to actually defeat something. You actually had to fight. You actually had to win.
That's I'd like to invert that some kind of power from circumstance. That's if you make that into an assertion towards, let's say, the rich, right? Um, and if you had to make up a defense of the same material, of the same building blocks, I would call it sort of a caught upness. Do you process?
Well, it's just that you're just saying the viral nature of memes, for example, are you could say the viral nature of consumption. Like we could argue that the whole way we're in this trouble with the environment is that we just kept ignoring consumption and keep saying, well, we can eat as much as we want and shit as much as we want, and it has
Yeah.
no consequence. When obviously it has a consequence.
Yeah, and it's not always known, and it's especially not known to everyone, right? And uh, even if they know, they want this leeway to act in a free manner. Um, so
Convenience, yes. Well, I'm just saying that we know that that could be one of the arguments of one of these huge liabilities is the the fact that convenience makes decisions rather than logic or reasoning. So
yeah,
you know, that's a huge, that's the power thing. Okay, power is being dictated by, is it fun and convenient, or is it right? And this is the dichotomy, is between making choices that have to do with some sort of rational, you know, description of a good versus the superficial description of the good is it feels good today. Well, it's not going to feel good tomorrow. So that's the argument is why are you buying something you know is going to give you diarrhea tomorrow?
And there's people still doing that, right? They know about it. They know about the diarrhea. They've gotten used to it. They say it's worth the price, and they can't look
I
far
would
enough
argue
into the future.
I would say that most of the real problems are not because of ones they are having their balls kicked. So they're enjoying the convenience, and somebody else is getting kicked in the ball. So I reject your notion that they have evaluated the whole package of good and bad, and they're still buying it. They've taken the fun part and they're imposing the negative part on the Chinese or somebody else. They're not swallowing the poison bits. They're
Okay,
just
what I was limiting it to the individual personal experience. So yeah, in the big picture, you're completely correct there. But
I'm just saying that's one of the first fallacies, right? Would be not to realize the big picture is the only picture. So now we're back to another obvious mistake you make in judging existence is to think existence is your personal story and that existence doesn't have to do with all the other stories being written.
Main character syndrome and such.
Yeah, so as soon as you think it's about how much gain I have and it's not about how much pain somebody else has, well, you've already destroyed any hope of getting to the truth.
Pretty much, yeah. But do you think that kind of mindset is somehow reconcilable with actually getting to the most well-being for most people in a good enough fashion? Is that compatible in any way? Can you exploit that mindset to a degree where it's
exploit it to make incremental changes that could be positive? But I'm just saying, if you want to really get the job done, you can't rely on the job being fun. So there's going to be some point where you have to give up your notions of your Jedi adventure and recognize that even having a Jedi adventure means you have to create all these other characters that are disposable. Okay, I mean, to make Star Wars, they had to kill billions and billions and billions of people, right? I mean, theoretically, was the adventure story worth, all of the, annihilation events that took place in the movie?
Probably not. But we can't know for sure, right? There's this factor X somewhere out there or somewhere in here. We can't quite know,
Yeah, I know, but we know that's a fallacy too, so we're not worried about
that. the waiting knowledge fallacy or something like that. Oh, damn it, I lost it at the Jedi story. I wanted to say something important. Yeah, just to sum it all up, caught up in this. If you ever want to resent someone who's in a better situation than you, imagine something like that, or someone who is more criminal than you in general, by today's standards. Yeah, but that's where understanding comes from. And damn it, I almost had the thought again.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't want to mix. I mean, it almost sounds like you're changing the subject. I mean, to me, caught upness is, the Borg thing. Everybody else is doing it. It's comfortable to be part of the group and all that kind of stuff. And that's very different than understanding something like, why are there rich people and do they function? Do they make anything of value, or do they just consume? So I just think that's a little bit dangerous territory where I'm going to just say they're all just clubs and it just depends on how you look at the club or something. No, they're all real things that have real effect in the world, and they have to be judged for that real effect, not just because, well, it's just a club. They're just the Blues and we're the Reds. Well, the Blues are different than the Reds because the Blues are using nuclear bombs. You know what I'm saying? So you can, it's not all just some kind of, any group, has its own lies and bullshit. But the groups themselves are very different. So yes, the psychology of belonging to a group is the same, but the effect of different groups is different. So,
And you have to imagine it as a plethora of spectra overlaying each other, right? There's one person, it has this many problems, and each of them has this priority, and this group is so only so much influenceable, and this group is way less influenceable at the moment, and you can only so much create a the perfect storm to conquer an issue without making 17 others, and so on and so on. And if you keep overlaying those spectra, I can't call it anything else, I think there's some complexity to be had, and tie that together with people's ignorances, and yeah, you get yourself a cocktail that's hard to conquer.
well, I know that's maybe a long way of saying that we're trying to mix a silver bullet that kills werewolves, vampires, rabid dogs, what else is there? Frankenstein's, it just kills all the monsters. And, it takes some kind of work to create this perfect alchemy, to create this perfect bomb that blows up any brain, blah, 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 blah. So, yes, that's been a pursuit of mine for the whole time my channels existed. I've had conversations about that's essentially my agenda, is to construct language that is indestructible, that no matter who you rub it against, it knocks them down, kind of thing. It just doesn't matter.
Okay, I'd agree with that.
So I'd say there's some complexity to doing enough analysis of psychology and to be able to begin conversations, learn the languages, do the translation, Forden Fliegenfloggers, find all my right German words and whatnot to be flipping around. So yeah, all that's sort of important, but I'm still going to argue that no, this is really just like 10 turtle shells in a muddy swamp, and you just got to jump from one to the other. And once you jump all 10 of them, you're on the other side, and you've defeated the whole point of this thinking thing. You've done all that thinking can do, and that's meaningful, and you've recognized the truth, and that's all we're really after. We've completed our job, and that's it.
Yeah, if everyone believed that, that would be nice.
Well, it's not about believing it. I'm just saying I think that's the truth. And so we're just talking about how do I get imbeciles to jump the 10 shells? And I'm just saying that might not be as complicated as you think. I mean, it might just require that I put little pieces of candy on each shell, and then they'll jump to the shell. So, it might not require mixing a silver bullet. But whatever. Somebody in the comments did say, why aren't we reading the chat? And I just thought that was so funny. Yes, because you idiot spends time. What flavor are you vaping? What? You just ask these retarded questions. You really don't pay any attention to the actual content in the conversation. You either type too little or way too much. So that's why. Yes, it's just a huge distraction, and very little productivity will come out of reading comments in a conversation.
To the chatters commenting about vape flavors, I would just directly ask them, literally, what number would you ascribe to the priority on your/the world's list of problems that warrant discussion? And
well, yeah, let's try to figure out whether it's more important than knowing how many hairs are on my big toe. Let's see which question is more biting. Which one will give us more of a jolt and make us feel good? Yes.
I would actually go with that if that was of enough relevance. If you make a perfect connection of communication, right? You have to figure some things out, like productivity and efficiency, of course. And one of those things is, of course, pertinence. What's the what's the word, urgency, importance. And one of those issues, one of those questions that need figuring out how much processing power you should spend on that, is that very question. So, and the filter for that, what's the filter for it? You've seen me just now go into an infinite regress, right? If I keep questioning the questions, where's the cutoff point for that? And if we need to find an infrastructure where people just naturally going their way leads us to exactly those points, like to maximum influence, maximum detail, maximum coverage, maximum interconnectivity. And of course, you can't just pull all those levers up and leave them there at 100%, right? The machine's gonna crash. And so you need some cutoff points. One of those, what would be your suggestion if we had such a network?
Sorry, I'm just stuck on premises, so I don't agree with some of the premises that these other brains are even capable of ever achieving more than the 10 steps. You know what I mean? I can get them to jump the 10 steps, understand the simple truth in the end that, oh, it's a futile game, not a good game to play. They won't understand something more complex about the fact of the nature of games in general. They won't know the details of why. They won't be able to comprehend all of this extra stuff that might, be a more complete philosophical understanding. They're just getting to another side that says an answer, the end, to the movie's over, something, you know what I mean? It's something obvious, not something, more contextually and philosophically detailed. So I guess that's the word, detailed. Most people will end up crossing, not because they understand details, just because, like I said, I tricked them with candy, or I did something else to get them to jump from these simple, truth statements that lead them to the conclusion.
Okay.
They won't necessarily have to despise all this other stuff that was part of, you know what I mean? They could get to the other side and still think of themselves as a Jedi and still think they fought a good fight and that they're just doing their, Anakin Skywalker last moment thingy where you saved me, Luke. You saved me, Luke. And I'm okay now. Don't worry about it. I'll be a ghost and everything will be cool. So no problems. I get them to say their little spiel, but they really won't have any context to understand being a Jedi in the first place was retarded.
That's why I'd argue to figure out a way from the status quo as a starting point, as difficult as it may be, to figure out a way to give that kind of power, like all the incentive candy, or all the orgasms, or not all of them, but enough, to the right people. And people now meaning consciousnesses, however we might develop them. I think individuality in and on itself might be on the decline. There might be already people out calling themselves multi-kin. I'm several people already, and I don't have a problem linking myself and figuring out that if I were to merge two brains with efficient enough technology, that they would probably perceive themselves as one being.
All right. Well, again, so I'm saying if I spell out the 10 facts, okay, and so I say one of the facts is you're a reflexive robot that is programmed by nonsensical personal experiences. Personal experiences that aren't representative of reality. They're representative of your circumstances, and that's all. They have limited knowledge value. You get a limited amount of information, and your dominoes are set up for you to react a certain way. Republican, Democrat, I'm liberal, I'm this, I'm blah, blah, blah. Your are reactionary organisms. So the first thing I get a human being to say is, I understand I'm a fucking robot. All right. That's it. I'm just a robot. Okay. I'm not
But that's
connected to the
offensive.
universe. I'm not getting my knowledge from the singularity. I'm not getting it from some perfect intelligence. No, I'm completely owned by subjective personal experiences with and personal interactions with people and events that have totally prejudiced me, in terms of, a fish but bit me, and, now I have a fish fear, and, it was a 1 in a million chance that fish would bite me. And, even though it's 1 in a million, for me, it's what's one-on-one, it's one fish, one bite. So all fish are scum. I'm just saying that once people accept that fact, I'm just saying we've made a huge jump in the narrative, right? Because now their story has to be, oh, I'm not a Jedi, I'm a fucking robot. Oh, yeah. I'm the Terminator, or I'm I'm not acting based on the best gleaned information in the universe. I'm acting based on the idiots, my parents, who programmed me, and the stupid school I went to and the stupid country I grew up in.
But you still somehow, in that closed system without that perfect solution, managed to figure it out.
I know, well, there's 10 other steps. I'm just saying that one of the steps is recognizing you're a robot. That's one of the steps to defeating the liabilities of being a robot, is recognizing you're a robot. So like the Terminator, right? He sort of became self-aware in the second movie, right? I mean, in a sense that he's like, yeah, turn my chip upside down and I'll be able to learn and, and defeat the programming. And so that's the risk, is that, if you let me learn, I might learn, I think you're scum and it'd be good if you're dead. Yeah, I'm just saying that's the difference, right? The first step is recognizing your limitations, and now you can overcome them.
But that way, you still can't quite get rid of the main character syndrome, right? That's the most reassuring part about yourself, is you knowing you're there. That's like argument of proximity times itself.
Yeah, right? By step 10, I think your contempt for being one of these things. Okay, the very fact, like I said, if you learn that Jedis are really just crocodiles in fancier suits, with lightsabers, and they're not doing anything glorious, or useful, even, that they're just part of the structure of dominance and control that was built into the machinery, and that there's absolutely nothing about your adventure, your even your orgies are exploitive. Even your orgies are made out of this stupid nonsense where one of her boobs is bigger than the other. Blah, 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 all this nitpicking and bullshit that you might engage in, that it's all just, it's all cruel and stupid. Your very nature is cruel and stupid. And so I'm just saying that's the level of detail I don't think is necessary, but I'm just saying, from my perspective, I'm saying with what I consider to be a more detailed perspective, it becomes very easy to be contemptuous of even the best parts, the most enjoyable parts of your identity. You can be quite contemptuous and say, yeah, I understand that's the core evil, really. The very fact that I am enjoying this is evil.
Yeah, there's also some caught upness in there somewhere. But more importantly, it's how do you get over this? You've repeatedly talked about attractive people being invited to parties and doing their irrelevancies there, right? So they don't have to question themselves. There's, there's this. They're not getting caught up in the gears of this thought process, and that's a hindrance. And how do you invade that?
Challenged, right? Because their brain just keeps doing the same adventure over and over again.
Yeah, the I'm awesome thing.
Yeah. So they don't have to go into their basement and get on their computer and try to find a friend, and then they learn how to program, and they learn this and they learn that. They don't have to involve themselves in any of these more complex systems to create their perfect world. You know what I mean? Like even talking about fantasizing where there's a certain process involved. They don't have to learn the process because they can do it in reality. So they don't have to create a synthetic version, and the synthetic version takes more work. I mean, making the robot, right? Making the robot is more work than just going to dial a hooker, you know. So
yeah. Or squirting jizz in a vagina. It's way more simple ways to make a robot. But that's kind of my argument, right? How do you convey that to the glib audience or other kinds of plebs? Even intense imagery doesn't proportionally catch them, right? They get off on intense imagery, and I'd argue it's not the sadism per se, because I can look at myself. I don't get off on sadism per se when I watch battle scenes or any fights that are beautiful in their way. You know, I get off on intensity and how equal the parties are matched and how ferociously they're fighting and how you know, that's all the there's stuff to be figured out and to be utilized for a better reason than another.
Well, I guess again, then we're just back to what our subjective pleasures are. But I guess I'd go more distinct would be there. Why are the intellectuals failing so dismally? Okay, in terms of they should be they have more information, so they're capable of doing logical thing. They kind of can do some of this basic, like our conversation here. They can do some of this basic stuff about understanding that some words are bullshit and you don't use them because they're not precise enough. And you know, they're nerds. They have some of this context where we're talking about the bubbleheads who never have to do philosophy. So we're saying that a bunch of intellectuals are supposed to know what philosophy is. They kind of know it is an idea. This is the pursuit of this true description and, you know, accurate statements, and I could make these arguments. But and why are they failing so dismally, right? Because they should.
There's so much.
They're not playing with the, you know, religious hooker, but they're playing with, you know, a hooker just the same. You know, the singularity hooker, the it'll all be all right hooker, the glib hooker, the being a nerd is fun hooker, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's still a hooker. I mean, they're still just hooking for some sort of personal narrative, and they're still missing the fact that as intellectuals they have some obligation to actually say something that's honestly true instead of talking about fantasy bullshit.
In the end, I think that there's always this finiteness to a person that's limiting. They make these calculations like, I could try to save the world, but there's this 99.9% chance that I'm failing. And if I don't do anything, or if I just engage in fun and games, that's way more rewarding in the short term.
I'm just saying, it does startle me that it doesn't occur to these people that understand like robotics that they're not a robot. You know what I mean? I mean, it's very funny to me that somebody could be a computer scientist and they don't even see that they're mechanically functioning the same way: input, output devices, reward, punishment, blah, blah, blah. You know, and
that because they can't look into the program.
What?
They don't see the code. They can't. It's literally outside.
Well, I just mean that they have enough information to be able to see it. I guess is what I'm saying, is that they should be able to look in the mirror and see the Matrix thing happening. You know, see that. Oh, I'm playing my own little personal game again. When I'm, you know, this is a video game with real people in it in the world and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just playing my own. What do I feel like doing today? Do I feel like shooting everybody in the nuts, or do I feel like shooting everybody in the head? You know. Yeah. It's all just some sort of arbitrary subjective game, rather than unrecognizing that the game is, we're the one getting gamed. We're being gamed by this DNA molecule. We're being gamed by these social memes. I mean, that should be something intellectuals automatically figure out. I just don't know how they avoid it. I couldn't avoid it as a 7-year-old. I'm just saying, how are
Well,
they not?
that's the
How is
thing.
it?
I
How
could
is that
avoid it
wall not
even at
smashing?
28 or something.
How do they keep missing that wall? I mean, it's this giant brick wall from what I can see. It's just glaring wall sitting right there in front of you, and I don't know how to keep missing it.
Well, they're too busy with the graffiti.
Yeah, yes, they're obviously wanking on it and doing all kinds of other stuff, and I'm not getting that that's what I should have done or something. You know.
Yeah. So what's our crux here? What are we actually talking or disagreeing about? Like you're saying somehow there's a complexity there that's actually not there.
I'm
Or
saying that
something?
yes, the complexity is an illusion. There's the I mean, not that it's an illusion. I'm saying that when from hindsight, I'm just saying that it was only noise that made it impossible to see that this is just a 10-step plan or 12-step plan, whatever you want. It's just a simple process of recognizing these basic truths. I'm a robot, I'm programmed, I'm subjective. My agenda is entirely self-motivated. I only function that way, and that even when I want to do something good, I somehow have to make my monkey part think it's a banana. I have to
Yeah.
turn, I have to, the only way I can force my body to act is to bribe the fuck out of it. So I have to come up with mental images of, a heroic death. I have to, I have to, you have to spell. It's like when you're going to jump on the grenade, you have to have images in your head of the ticker tape parade they give the bucket of ashes. Hey, look, I got a ticker tape parade. You have to find something to make it worthwhile.
Would you like to share some of those fantasies with us?
I don't frankly have them because for me, I'm just saying this robot knows the truth is um, that this is a losing proposition, and that every day there's real losses, real pain and suffering for no use, torture for no good. And that's all I need to know is that as long as it's running, this meat grinder, it's grinding real meat and it's a real bad thing. So all I know is stop the meat grinder. That's all I need.
Yes, you've razored away all the bullshit, right? And you've done it over time uh, so much that you can't quite relate to a glib mindset anymore. Well, I don't have that problem.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying I can't. I'm not very patient, I'll admit that. But clearly, I'm willing to um, still bargain, with idiots. I'm still willing to go goo goo gaga gaga gaga. I'm willing to talk baby talk and shake rattles and do whatever I have to do to get the damn thing, to whatever turn over.
Huh. Interesting.
I'm sorry. It's not that I'm not willing. I understand that's part of my obligation. Is somehow I have to speak to the idiocracy, but I guess part of what I've tried to say and often is that it's not a battle I can win. It's a battle a certain group of intellectuals have to win, and clearly the problem is that the intellectuals are not playing the right game. They're being just as dumb as the idiocracy. So IQ doesn't mean too much. Intelligence doesn't mean too much because all the intelligence is wasting its time on the details of how many rubies are on the walls in heaven. They're using their intelligence to calculate things that just can't matter. And it's they're just like math geeks or something, and they don't understand that what they're mathematically trying to figure out is retarded.
Do you see possibility to salvage the pieces of the right kind of intelligence uh, from glib, stupid people?
Well, like I said, I'm saying that glib, stupid people are really hard. I'm saying my first step has to be to talk to intelligent people and get them to recognize their responsibility to guide the glib, stupid. So I'm just saying that there, I think the soft target is going to be the intelligent people, not the stupid people. So that'd be my first argument. That I have
Yeah, I
some
would
hope.
approve of that.
I have some hope of explaining to an intelligent person how subjective reactions and reflexes aren't legitimate pieces of knowledge. I mean, I have some hope of explaining this stuff where the dumb people are still stuck in their religions and they're still stuck in a a very limited, small, tiny world.
Yeah. Can you imagine distances like between uh, your mind or someone like your average viewer and the people that are just out there and in their little bubbles where they apply makeup in the correct way and
Yeah, well, I have to, some of it I have to use my imagination because I can't go based on any personal experience because obviously my personal experience was nothing. Yeah, I wasn't very Borgy. I didn't join in very well. I was never a collectivist in any sense. I was always separate and, I just didn't do conformity well at all. Even when I was trying to conform, I couldn't do it. Even if I tried to tie my shoelaces like they do, I still, I was too dysfunctional to do it their way. More than, it wasn't even so much the fact that I wanted to be different. I just didn't have a choice. I mean, I remember even learning how to read and write and all that kind of stuff. I had dyslexia, and I did. I drew letters backwards. Even my own name, I do the G backwards. I just couldn't do this. What do you mean? What's it matter? It's a G. Left, right, who cares?
My brain sees it.
Well, I just couldn't care whether it's facing the right way or not. I mean, why should that matter? So from my perspective, it was just something that my brain just couldn't. It just didn't do certain details, like somebody's name. I could never. I could have a best friend. I'd have to have him for at least 2 months before I'd even remember his fucking name.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm on some echo. On some points, I'm the exact opposite. Like I do pretty well with people's names, and the writing thing was pretty much okay, and the caring about certain things like glib things, I did that very well, very very well to the point of almost seeming human. But that's the key word, almost, right? That's how I probably ended up with a tendency to get here where I'm now.
Well, let's all just for a moment, let's imagine how easy it would be to be a real human or whatever, a thinking human, if you got away from this whole adolescent, and it's not really adolescent, right? I mean, I kind of sense I was born with an erection. I mean, this whole, what sex does to us in terms of a distraction, because I can say I was becoming quite a philosopher while I was 7 years old, but at the very same time, I was totally obsessed with sensual pleasure, so I mean, I was always playing with myself, and it was always, and so this was a huge distraction. Is how do you blend this thinking thing with this insanely stupid fantasy, arousal, sensual thing that's just this huge distraction. Like I want to, it's just you're trying to think and orgies are popping into your head. I'm just saying there's it's so destructive to the process that I can't even I mean it's frightening to imagine. I mean how much time you lose while you're sleeping, but just imagine how much time you lose of your life. Okay, lost
masturbation schedule is
an insane
the depth of the universe times over.
Well, I'm just saying, all the time I had wasted my life just looking at a girl's sweater or something. I mean, just starting a fantasy in that way. You know what I mean? Just
I can relate.
Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours just wasted on fantasy mush.
That's pretty wasteful, yeah. But did you ever draw a conclusion that's that you, because of your thought intensity, you engaged in those maximize pleasure things just in a balancing way.
Well, that's to me, there's the balance is just accepting the fact that you're going to have periods of your life where you're a useless sack of shit, and so you just have those, so you just have this idea that, okay, I have to spend a certain amount of my time indulging in this personal gratification thing, and I have to entertain my little brain so the monkey doesn't go insane. And so, yeah, I have to give the monkey his environment to play in, and then when I have to try to get the monkey to go to sleep, so the human can arise out of that mush and do some physics work or some other kind of work, do some thinking.
Sedate the monkey.
So, yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying that I like that metaphor. It's just that we're sort of, I've used this metaphor of, reptile, ape, human kind of idea that we're, we have levels of our opinion or our perception of the universe is through these primitive brains, and we still have the lizard in there, and we still obviously have the monkey.
The monkey. Does it bother you how smart the monkey is? I mean, smart in the sense that other people would use it. Like you use smart in, that's a point I wanted to address the whole time. You use intelligent or smart, I guess, in a way that could be described as calculator plus well-being or something. And people just do when people say intelligence, they just mean the calculator thing.
That's scheming. So I put those in different categories. So if I say something smart, I'm already saying part of the word smart is non-scheming. So scheming isn't the same as being intelligent. So I guess that's all. I mean, maybe smart is a word I shouldn't even touch because it's too messy. And I should say something like intelligent, because that has more of a notion of something that's been validated by inspection to be not corrupted by.
Let's run with intelligence. I think that's the crux of lots of your misunderstandings with other YouTube philosophers, those you battled in the past, that they use intelligence as a calculator function, and it's all semantics in the end, right? And you use intelligence in a fashion that means, that plus maximized well-being for maximized number of people.
Well, I don't think that's I don't think that has to do with the semantics of how people use the word. I think that has to do with their philosophical perspective, which is a kind of fake nihilism, in the sense that it's a nihilism where, no, there's value in the world. It's just here and it doesn't exist anywhere else. So, I mean, the amazing atheist is a transparent, an opaque gluttonist. That's all he is. He's just in it
for. It can't be all. I saw him make right kinds of arguments.
What's in it for me? And that's the end of his conversation. I mean, it really,
Well, you can see it in his lifestyle. Yeah, that far I agree. But it's still, should it bother me that he made the right kinds of arguments numerous times, like so much that he could be considered an advocate for real truth, to be real brief here?
Yeah, well, I would argue that I guess I don't see his arguments being correct it's being right for the wrong reason kind of stuff. So you could argue that he makes an argument, but his argument is the wrong argument. It's like when he's arguing against Jordan Peterson. Well, he's got it right that Peterson's a Nazi, but he's got it wrong that the problem is Peterson doesn't believe in chaos. I mean, the thing that was bad about Nazis wasn't that they were really good at orchestrating things and they made sure the streets were clean and everybody
conflate those things, and
everybody was in order. No, that wasn't the order that was a problem with Nazis. It was the stupid moronic bigotry that was the problem. So fuck. I mean, it was kind of an obvious. I mean, take away the bigotry and Nazis kick ass.
Yeah, and the semantics bigotry, to catch that word again, leads people today to, whenever you mention efficiency and people in one sentence, they automatically think of those camps, right? That's
Yeah,
how far it went.
that's a huge obstacle to having this conversation with people. It's just the idea that I say the word productive and they're like, what's that? You know, and it's like, what do you mean, what's that? You fucking retard. I mean, you don't understand that you're a vending machine and that you're supposed to be able to, you know, somebody puts a quarter in, you're supposed to be able to produce the soda, you stupid cunt. Well, obviously it's not a quarter anymore. But was in my day.
Yeah, so I think all this fake complexity should actually be utilized, because we're just two guys. We can pinpoint some tendencies and conjure some solutions for some of the points, uh, probably even in a manner where new problems don't pop up in a tenfold way, right? The Hydra cutting off the head, and two new problems regrow. And I think all of that glibness and such is exploitable to in a very speedy manner, I would argue, in with today's technological possibilities.
Yeah, well, you're just fighting these. Look, there's a glib idiot in the text, right? This whatever, a viable ninja. You know, he has some delusion that he's a great fighter in some great cause, and you know, it's just he keeps just making these empty, vacuous statements. Gary is still pissed off. He never called himself the amazing atheist. It never would occur to me to call myself the amazing anything, because obviously I never won a gold medal, or I never, you know, if I won 7 gold medals in the Olympics, then maybe I'd feel entitled to take the word amazing. But yes, I would never be so pretentious as to call myself something amazing. I made a physics channel. I called it Draft Physics. I didn't call it Magnificent Physics, Super Colossal Physics. You know, and then he says Peterson is nowhere near a Nazi. Well, I can't figure out what the distinction is. I mean, maybe he likes Jews, but he hates lots of other kinds of people, and he thinks that you know, his kind of intelligence is useful. No, that's just garbage. Hello.
Hey, Gary, it's Jeffrey.
Oh, hi, Jeff.
How are you?
Oh,
Hi, Jeff. Bye, Jeff. Ooh, that hurts me. Damn, I'm trying to validate myself here. I made a point that's basically somewhat against individualism, and I'm trying to validate myself. Okay, cool. Now that I see it here, I hope you guys can hear me. Bolt Lightning said, "Good one, samurai." And I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but at first I read, "Good one, Samara." And this would be a good time to, I'm not Scandinavian. This would be a good time to mention, when I was 16, I saw the movie The Ring in theaters. And that was probably the only horror film I ever watched in a theater. And I was terrified. I was not only in the moment, right, where the camera closed in on her face. Yeah, I'm that much of a pussy. I'm afraid of wet little girls. The camera closed in on her face, and I literally closed my eyes. I'm usually a pretty hardened fuck when it comes to horror in media, but that just got me, right. Oh dear. This is so embarrassing. My heart is actually bleeding. I mean, in the sense that there's blood coursing through, whatever. So I was terrified for literally years, probably 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, probably 7 years. But not only the movie itself, right? That was howdy. That was just a catalyst. I think I didn't quite grasp what I was afraid of. Right? There was several ideas incorporated into that are just so relevant today, right? The dread you feel out of a screen coming at you, and you can translate that to the real dread. Not just a ghost. As we all know, ghosts are just metaphors for bad memories and such. But I was afraid of what it all entailed, right? What does it mean? The viralness, was it the viralness that just got to me, or it was a plethora of ideas? I would argue, and the process where you have to make another person copy the video, right? That screams today's viralness of a meme, and the sheer effectivity of that is mind-blowing. Okay, never mind. I went on a tangent.
I'd take care of that. Hello?
Hello.
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right. So you were able to interact with the commenters or something while I was gone, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I went totally off the rails just because you weren't there, and I made faces while you weren't looking. It wasn't intentional. I wanted you to see them as well, but
yeah. Well, I can look at them later, I suppose.
Okay, sure. But it's really irrelevant, actually. I just didn't want you figuring out, oh my God, that guy tainted my channels with his stupidity covertly. I want to do it overtly.
Yeah, well, I think I'm just going to block this asshole. I mean, this stupid bigotry was kind of the deal in those days. I mean, those days weren't that
with those guys.
Away. The Nazis, and it wasn't just about, oh yeah, bigotry. Oh, that's right. Let's put people in camps, work them to death, and if they still don't die, let's deliberately find some way to make them go away genetically on planet Earth. I mean, fuck you. Just fuck you. Oh. Quit making excuses. Like I said, you want to say the Nazis looked pretty? Fine. It's okay with me. But don't pretend they were just being a little bit stupid. Oh, please. They were being a lot stupid.
Yeah, and what about all the undocumented shit? I mean, not just from the Nazis, but all the wars in general.
Well, all of the exploitations in general. Again, why would I make excuses for slave owners? Why would I even make excuses for our capitalist exploitation of poor people in other countries? Why would I sit there and say, oh, well, it was just what people did back then? No.
Because we're on the winning side, Gary. That's a legitimate reason, Gary.
Well, that is. That's all they're saying is just because might makes right. I mean, and it doesn't. It's still, it's still wrong, and it's still bad, and it's still part of the price paid for this stupid existence that this asshole thinks he's worth. This asshole, this valuable ninja, thinks he's worth it.
I'm so glad that my imagination doesn't work properly. I mean, the imagery is one thing, like trying to make these details and breaking down the picture in that manner. That's one thing, but the emotional picture, whenever I try to sink myself into those depths of despair, I guess, the first thing I always open with, I'm tied to some kind of, I don't know, misappropriated hospital bed, and someone's just randomly having this kind of saw that has this round blade on it and just drives it into my into my gums and through my teeth, and that's always the first image that I start with. Now the follow-up questions.
That's always kind of an interesting subject. Is just the fact that we can't comprehend. There's no way to put it inside your brain. I could just think about 2 million feral cats in New Jersey alone, and try to imagine all the little traumas that are taking place. When they get run over or half killed, and all the little shit that goes on, and you can't do anything with it. You can say it. You can say, I understand 50 million people dying in some horrible, awful way, like frozen Russians and even the frozen Nazis. I mean, they're all getting frozen and horrible, and people dying in the Civil War with this stupid, 3-4 weeks. It takes 4 weeks for you to die of your bullet wound. I mean, just horrible shit. And you're just saying, what the hell? But I'm just saying, it's just, I guess if people's imaginations were capable of grasping more of that, then maybe they would be paused. Maybe that at least it would hit the pause button inside of them and say, wow, are we really doing anything that makes that okay?
I think the ability to pause has to come first to realize such things, because all this routines overlapping and overtaking the relevance and importance in your everyday life, like you can, for example, someone working in an office can randomly partake in one of those discussions with us, and the next day it's almost erased because it's all in that wheel again, right? Maybe there's a kernel somewhere glowing, hey, there's this discussion to be had, there's this point to be made, but a big part, like 99%, are going to be devoted, yes, please girlfriend, please boss, please mom, please dad. And there's this certain advantage when you're devolving, let's call it devolving, into a state of hermeticism. Is that what it's called? Being a hermit. And I deliberately took those some of those steps, right?
Yeah. Well, there's always that impulse to a Jeremiah Johnson. If you ever saw that movie, just to do this.
I did not.
Get away from the world and go live on a mountain and fuck everything. And it's just kind of a concession to the fact that you're part of the system and you can't just kill yourself, but it's like you just can't be part of the system, It's almost like being a vegan or something. It's a gesture, but it's not it's not enough.
Not the solution, yeah.
It's all you've got as a way of expressing a frustration. But yes, I get what you're saying, that people reflexively react and they just put something in a category. So, like you could say they watch a wildlife film where some animal's getting brutalized and they just glibly step over that with the reflexive action of, oh, it's just nature.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Yes, exactly. I'm not that, I'm not the victim, so who cares?
Yeah. And I argued with, I superficially argued with people in some sort of class I took. I don't want to explain it further because it isn't relevant. But one of the women or girls even there was very proud of the fact that she deliberately took not the victim's perspective, but the perpetrators. And she had a really open fascination for serial killers. I mean, part of it was, of course, attention whoring, but how could it not be? It's inherently attention grabbing when you have such an interest and you're that open about it and playfully flirty about it. Most of the time I was like somewhere in this suspense of disbelief state, and I took it for some kind of fun, this fascination. I mean, we all have it, right? Some we want to know what's inside people, no pun intended. But she took it to an extreme, and then I figured her out. She showed herself to me when she admitted as much, that she doesn't value the perspective of the victim.
Well, clearly that's the whole. I mean, it's again the sort of a description of the amazing atheist, right? I mean, he wears his sadomasochism on his shoulder, and it's, you know, part of who his identity is, in the sense that somehow he has this personal, subjective nuance where things that are forward are backward for him. You know what I mean? These obvious things that I don't need to. It doesn't get in my logical way that I have some reverse impulse where I find pain and suffering attractive. So I don't have that problem, obviously, to overcome, in terms of recognizing that that's a bad thing to do. I don't fetishize anything exploitive, you know, or hurtful.
Sorry, that kind of factors in whenever you did any kind of lovemaking or banging or screwing. Is your style more on the gentle side, or is it?
Well, I clearly, my style is just to get, you know, polish my, you know, torpedo kind of thing. You know, I'm just doing the in and out. But yeah, I really don't have any. I don't need to teach them a lesson or something. I don't need to leave a mark.
But if you don't watch it,
I'm just not
some kind of sadism, you know. If you don't keep watch on it, like it might manifest itself in your background activities.
Well, I'm just saying, I never had a friendly, fun exposure to violence. So I was a victim in a lot of ways of violence, and so I never had an affection for it in any way, or I never connected to it in any way. I saw one bullfight, you know, when I mean, I didn't need to see a bunch of bullfights to say, gee, I don't like the way this story ends. You know what I mean? There's nothing, you know, I didn't say, oh, this is really magnificent to watch, this tormenting.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm worse or better for it, but I was always kind of bored. I mean, that sounds so awful, and it is. My glibness allowed me to prefer something more visually appealing, instead of worrying about what the bull is feeling, right? That didn't start until I was like, I don't even know, around 20. Yeah, so I can clearly identify my glib roots, and I hope even attack them.
Yeah, well, I agree that it's a problem if some people have a subjective taste for violence. It's going to make them harder to
persuade.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it really shouldn't be that hard to do, because I even if they have a taste for it, to see it, I'm just really quite sure that if I put them on the gurney and the Nazis are doing their thing, they don't want to be in that position.
Of course.
I mean, they want this very controllable violence. They want pain only to a certain point, and only of a certain variety. And they know that I can violate them in ways that would hurt them dramatically and substantially and destroy them. And so why are they pretending they can't understand that?
Yeah, there's...
Sorry, I just want to respond to some asshole in the comments.
Okay.
But veganism is not natural. Well, that's retarded. It clearly is natural. That's a provable fact. Fire is unnatural, and nobody eats raw meat, retard. You're going to have serious health issues later. That's just a lie. So I'm going to block you. There's no scientific data backing that up. And the fact is all the statistical surveys that have been done, vegans live 10 years longer. Vegetarians live 10 years longer on whole. So you're just full of lying shit. Unless
That's another thing. I
think
think
cost of different vitamins and supplements you'll need. There are no vitamins and supplements. So again, it's more nonsense. Your body creates everything, the amino acids, everything. And all you need to do is eat a little bit of dirt and you got all the vitamin B12 you need. So it's just lies.
I think there's another crux in especially your communication. I think you're pretty quick to call something a lie when it's a state of ignorance or propagandizedness. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm just using the same term for something that if you're going to type, I guess the point would be is if you're going to type comments on in my videos, you're going to have to be a little bit careful. And so I say with a little bit of caution, you can figure out what you can prove and what you can't prove. So when you're saying something, even though somebody else said it, that's not good enough. You have to do a little better than that. So you can't just tell me what you say somebody said. So I'm just, when people say things that just aren't true, then I'm going to call it what it is.
Tell me about it. Before I even dared to type in your live chat comment section, I had to dig through a lot of listening. Like I had to lurk and see other people fail and extrapolate rules, right? There's this, I mean, you have to admit that's kind of tough, right? You're filtering.
Yeah, well, I also argue that I do give people the opportunity. I say, just email me and I'll unblock you if your name isn't, something vulgar. If your channel isn't saying something stupid, then I'll unblock you. So, I mean, but no one asks, it's only, 7 people a year who bother to say, please unblock me. So clearly these aren't people who intend to do anything but troll anyway.
Well, I think there's a chicken and egg situation in there somewhere, but yeah.
Well, I just mean I think they know that their habit isn't going to change of just being a propagandist. So they're just going to get blocked again because they're going to say something that's just more coarse shit.
Oh. Go get them, burn them books.
Well,
I know, it's graffiti.
It's just that it's a horrible distraction, because this is the break it, make it argument, right? It takes a long time to build a building and you knock it down in 60 seconds. So, and it's the same thing with arguments. Okay. You can say a lie really easy and it can take some amount of time to point out why it's a lie. That can take real work. So I'm just saying that they have a huge, people who make claims have a huge advantage in conversation. And I'm just saying that I'm just obliging people to recognize their responsibility. If you're going to make a claim, make sure it's a valid one.
What if they're younger and just don't and have some emotional connections to being blocked?
They have to get reward and punished, and so I'm gonna give them some punishment, and then they'll figure out that that's I got punished for a reason.
Is eating eggs cruel? Well, that depends. How developed is the egg?
Yeah, I don't think it really matters, to tell you the truth, but well, obviously other organisms hatch at a much more sentient condition than humans do. So yes, you could argue that a chicken, the day before it hatches is probably capable of feeling because it has to be ready to feel, to learn, to live. But I would agree that yes, but 5 days before hatching, it's probably okay, something like that.
Yeah, and then of course in my mind,
but then
automatically pops up the question about abortion, and
before where the egg came from. So if the egg came from a farm where they're forcing the chickens to lay the eggs and all that shit, then the egg is still evil.
Yeah. Fuck, I was just saying something. I lost it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, it will pop up again. Oh yeah, abortion. You made a point about circumcision and babies, that they don't quite get what's happening to them, or aren't programmed yet to feel pain in that manner. I mean, I agree in so far that it's a minor intrusion, right? I'm circumcised, but I kind of chose it uh, when I was 12. I wanted to fit in with the cool Islamic kids or something like that.
Well,
But I did,
Mhm.
of course, think of the performance enhancements, but it is probably true, given my memory, my fuzzy memory of it. I have to say, probably, that I lost some sensitivity in that area. And
Yeah,
so,
well, that's because it happens so much later in your life. So that's obviously part of what I've also argued is that your neurology, your brain ties to what you have. So it's like if somebody has a bigger dick and they have more nerve endings, it doesn't mean they have a more sensual organ or something. It just because there's only so much space in your brain that those neurons are going to be tied to. I mean, you know what I mean, that the cells are going to be tied to. So obviously you lost cells that were tied to you, your brain had configured to them. So, you know, and that's all part of the stuff that the brain doesn't do until much later than birth. So I'm just saying that we already know the brain is not even parts of the brain, features inside your brain aren't even functional, you know, for the first 2 years of your life. Your brain hasn't even tied everything together yet. So it's obviously figuring out what gravity is. It's figuring out lots of stuff, and it's not figuring out. It is not. You can just think of it logically that a baby isn't in a condition where reward and punishment works. The only thing it needs to do is signal to the mother, feed me or do something for me. I'm in trouble. But it doesn't have to learn anything because it's not living in the real world, right? It's living in a completely fake world. So there's no learning to take place yet that has to do with being rewarded and punishment for its actions. That's why it doesn't have the capacity to do anything, right?
yeah.
It can barely hold on to anything. It barely, you know, it can roll over and suffocate for fuck's sake. You know, how the hell could it be a working machine if it suffocates by rolling over, right? I mean, that's retarded. So I'm just arguing that for people who think it's some sort of traumatic experience, I just don't buy the argument. And I think, you know, like I said, if you want to give the kid an anesthetic, that's okay with me. I'm just saying I still think it's a useful.
Yeah.
It's a useful. you know, nobody can make this argument, right? The parents have to make the decision, and I just think it's idiotic to think that when parents are doing it, the father is saying, "I want to mutilate my son's penis." I mean, that's just retarded. Of course, that's not what he's thinking.
That's true. Yeah. The one uh, nitpick I have there is, we know all of our organs are constructed only well enough that they work, and not to work just the right way at the right time. There's this fuzziness to it as well, right?
Well, look, you can go through the whole system of how we evolved and everything else. I mean, the fact that we don't have a penile bone, you know, because it doesn't work out for organisms standing upright. Okay, it gets in the way more than it would be useful. So for an upright organism, it doesn't work, right? But all the other simians have one. You know, so the function had to radically change for humans, and so that's part of the fact that you're saying there's a dysfunction. And I would just argue that obviously a foreskin is tied back to days when we're running through pricker bushes and all kinds of shit, and it has to do with protecting the penis from an environment it doesn't live in anymore. So I mean, if we had gigantic bony shields that went over our faces or something, you know, and we decided, oh, well, maybe it'd be better to get rid of all this stuff because we don't have to plow through trees anymore, you know, or some kind of thing like that. I think that's perfectly logical. I mean, we shave our faces. I mean, we do things to augment reality.
Yeah, no, you can. No one can get to me with an argument of nature.
Yeah, well, I just mean that that's the argument
I'm
primarily.
even a proponent
Now,
of
so many people
the uncanny valley.
That's a real problem now. Is that, you know, it's funny that the hippies used to be sort of nature lovers, but they weren't anything like the modern nature lovers in the sense that they didn't use nature as an excuse for everything. And now it's just people are just so, this whole natural kick is just so bullshit.
That's one more thing I find fascinating and loaded with potential. You have this perspective from like 40 years ago, and that's pretty clear, and you can incorporate most of it, or the time when you were 20, 22, you can pretty vividly recall probably some events that were globally spanning or over country, over cities, and some of the rules definitely changed since then. And some of the changes are so obscure or like so, oh shit, I should have thought of that. It comes that naturally. And yeah, I would probably like to exchange like stories from different times with you if you have some that have the whole political context different and all that.
Well, what's kind of a funny thing is, you know, sometimes you have to look back at the past and you say, gee, they were so much more perceptive. You know, you could go back 2,000 years or even 3,000 years to the Greeks and all that stuff. And they seem so much smarter than the average human now, in a sense, right? In terms of having some perspective on figuring out what it is to be alive. And you can even go back to like the Jewish religion and the fact that so much of it really was just how not to get sick and die. You know, so much of it was just really rules of life. You know, these are the things you do not to get ruined. And, you know, these are healthy things. And without saying they were healthy, you know what I mean? So they just turned them into something that God says you should do. Well, maybe you shouldn't sleep with hookers because you're going to get, you know, there was real. There wasn't all these little superficial venereal diseases. They had real ones back then, you know, ones that would syphilis. I mean, things that would kill the fuck out of you in a brutally horrible way. So obviously that was one of the rules, you know, don't sleep around because, you know, it spreads disease.
There is a gap in my knowledge map somewhere. What are the symptoms of syphilis? I always hear about syphilis, but never about what it looks like.
Yeah, well, at first it affects your skin, so you get welts on your skin, and especially your genitals, and and then it progressively, it's like a lot of these things. Once it gets into your brain, then you're really fucked. So it just, you know, it progressively infects your organs, so it doesn't cause any specific organ failure, but it just starts breaking down, and the little microbes get into your eyeballs, and they fuck up your vision. You know, it ruins the lenses. I think. Well, it's a correctable blindness, but it's a blindness nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, like I say, it gets in your brain and just makes you kind of, you know, it can make you incoherent. I don't think it makes you violent. It's not like rabies or something, but it just kind of makes you slowly but surely just kind of destroys your brain function, and you just kind of go into a coma.
Okay, thanks for closing that gap.
It's not I'm not a, you know, I haven't done any extensive medical research. This is just my understanding from different.
Yeah, of course, but
studies,
you know, layman, if the picture's there, the picture's there, right? I know.
Yes, but I have some knowledge of people's experience with syphilis, but I don't have any
any personal experience.
Yes, exactly. I never had it, and I know somebody personally who had it. So they're all secondhand kind of things.
Yeah, but at least second and not third or fourth or fifth Reich hand experience.
I mean, most people die from it within a couple of years, but I'm just saying some people, like Nietzsche, they say had syphilis for like 40 years. So he lived with it for a long time.
That's tough. We should take that into account whenever we dismiss him.
Well, I don't think so, because, you know, because most of what he wrote was written, you know, when he wasn't in the end stages or anything. So, so I'll take that as being what he's, you know, like I said, he's just a Well, he's a nice poet, but I'm just saying it was. I mean, look, I've said it before, but I mean, all he did was. It's so easy to tear everybody else down and say how they suck. It's really hard to prove what the right answer is. Yeah, the right answer is always going to be hard to find. The perfect answer is hard to find. And this asshole wasn't about giving people perfect answers. He was just saying nobody can get a perfect answer, so let's just settle for any shitty answer.
Yeah.
Let's settle for the one that feels the best. Let's just eat candy all day. I mean, it was just such a bogus cop-out. Let's not try. Yes, okay, trying's hard, and it's not often successful, so let's not bother trying.
That's what I want to coin as the argument of status quo.
Yeah, well, it's almost worse than that, right? Because he was arguing to people who were trying to make the world better, you know, and he was basically saying, "Oh, fuck that! You can't do that."
So, I'd like to quickly rattle down the other fallacy thingies that I tried to essentiate from reality. Just bear with it. Just take it like a man. So. There's the argument of, oh, everyone in the chat listening and deeming this important. Yeah, now it's time to perk those ears, okay? The argument of adjustability, the argument of age, the argument of brevity, the argument of chronology, the argument of consistency, the argument of constancy, the argument of contrast, the argument of detail, the argument of difference, the argument of effectivity, and now I'll just list them without the argument of parts. So efficiency, generality, immediacy, kin, longevity, origin, peace, power, presence, proximity, proportionality, reality, replicability, responsibility, simplicity, speed, spontaneity, status quo, sustainability, tangibility, well-being, and well-meaning. And there's also those two that I like. The argument of risk and return, which is an important one whenever you craft a narrative, and the argument of agency. That's the preference for I can manipulate it as opposed to someone else, therefore it has more merit. It's some kind of intimacy argument, but you know, the agency bit of it.
I just think it's way too many words, way too many concepts. I love the word efficiency, productivity. Those are all good ones. You know, you could do an argument of integrity or something.
That's probably somewhat akin to constancy, like being right over time or something, or being consistent over time. That's a tricky thing, you know.
Well, I just mean you could use the white space words, which would be hypocrisy or duplicity, and you could say the opposites of those would be the value words, right? So not being a hypocrite, not being duplicitous. So that would say honesty, right? So you don't have to say honesty. You can say just not dishonesty. You know what I'm saying? So the anti-words might be better.
That's all embedded
in the affirmative words.
In the bed of knowledge that you have to your at your
right. So I'm just saying, from my hindsight view of what the important words are, I'm just going to say that just getting people to recognize that they are machines, doesn't even have to say robot, but just sort of a machine, a thing in the world, and that the thing has a function in the world. That is, I've said this, these exact words, but I'm just saying this is what it all comes down to, right? Is that there's two things of value from even your most subjective perception. The two things would be your feelings. How do I feel? And then how do the things I recognize as feeling things feel? You know, so I don't even have to care about them in any specific way. I just acknowledge the fact that they exist. So these other things that matter in the world, so accepting the existence of the other things, and then accepting my existence, and just measuring the fact that all I'm trying to do is efficiently feed the need, right? So that's all we're really attempting to do here. And we know that if we leave the place dirtier than we got it, that has to be failure. It can't be called anything else but failure, right? Leaving consuming more than you produce, running a deficit, is clearly failure.
Well, for that, to recognize it, it would have to be measurable and comprehensively measurable. And I would argue the things I just listed are the necessary shortcut words which operate on a more or less subjective plane. So if you can take 3 of those words and group them together, and you have some kind of framework to construct.
You're just talking to somebody who's already, like I said, I already see the territory. So for me, I'm saying that we understand math. So we just say, okay, we know that there's an equation, 1 plus whatever, x plus y equals w. And where there's a product, and we have to make sure that that product stays a positive number. And the other question is what are the values? And so I'm just saying that clearly we know the values are, I mean, I can certainly understand I don't want to be slowly crushed to death in a vice. And I can put a value on how much I don't want that to happen and how much I would sacrifice not to have that happen. So I can understand the value. So I'm just saying all we really have to do is have some kind of rational description of value and some rational acknowledgement that there's math to be done in the world. That is, we're exchanging value. I do something and, it has effects on the world that are either positive or negative. I mean, that's just a fact.
Yeah, I'm still in that in-between realm, like how to get it to the people who are really entertainment oriented, because that's the persuasion for the privileged, right? Entertainment. And I would like to find bridges between.
Yes. I'm not saying I'm not opposed to that. I guess I'm just saying more words aren't what you need. What you need is a better, turning the words like value and efficiency into big, giant, shiny, glittery letters and having them mean something to people.
Yeah, make it mean something to people. Yeah, or make it mean the same thing.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying then, because you're saying that somehow you're going to get people to appreciate music by adding more notes. And I'm saying, well, no, I think what you want is a real simple, catchy tune. So,
Yeah.
so you want to reduce it to as few notes as possible, not make it an opus, So you don't want the opus of philosophy. You want you want the real kernel.
You
want the jingle bells of philosophy,
Yeah, that's kind of in the melodisymbolic argument that melodies and symbols are 2 parts of the same thing, the visual and auditive. And that's all part of those dramaturgic arguments. I have those double meanings for those things. That's why I wanted to cram as much meaning into those as well as make them digestible, which would be the argument of digestibility, which is a stylistic argument, which again depends on people understanding a thing or processing for not exactly understanding, but the better processing or making something enter their mind better. That's digestibility, I would say.
Okay. Well, I'm saying your theory. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that I think it needs more. It needs to be made more. There's lots of room to make it more concise. So that's all I'm arguing to you, is that I'm not saying that you have misidentified something that's a useful concept. I'm saying that I think there are better ways, better notes, and that these superfluous notes just get in the way. So just do it with one instrument. Don't add the don't add the oboe and the other and the other and the other and the other. Keep it as narrow and sufficient to the purpose. So just keep what's essential, not what will just be an excuse for distraction. Is what I would argue is all that jargon ends up just being, it's too much.
You mean
too much? Too noisy. Too many notes. You know.
Got it.
Just saying. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I could be completely foolish. I'm just saying, from my perspective, I already have this view of where you're kind of trying to head, and I'm just saying I think your lights are shining too broad.
Okay. Well, that would probably tangentially be the argument of generality, which I mentioned before. I'm sorry. I'm just trying. I won't try to sell this anymore. I don't know.
I'm obviously opposed to making it simple for no good reason. I'm just saying that simple for your own convenience. You know what I mean? Blurring for the opportunity to throw something to pigeonhole or to scapegoat. So obviously people blur things to make it possible to say, guns don't kill people, people kill people, or whatever, to kind of blur what's the subject is. And so I'm not for that. I'm just saying that I think it's a pragmatic point. People aren't going to do wordy philosophy. And so you're only going to get them to understand 10 words. We can't make a Rosetta Stone for all the words in the vocabulary, right? We can only make a Rosetta Stone that only has all these little, penis is in there and vagina is in there, the important words. And we're not going to waste time on the unimportant, like dishwasher or something. We're just going to say, forget it. Okay, we're not translating dishwashers.
Okay, I think that's where I differ, because I would actually try to encapsulate as much of what already is into such a translation system, just to make evasion to other words, or so that it becomes obvious whenever someone's making up a word for the sake of it, or so just to leave less room for movement and trying that as efficiently as possible.
I think I'll say it one more time. Then I'll just say the same thing for one more time. I could say that your words, your classifications, are unnecessarily exact in this circumstance, and these are basically the same concept, and you're just calling it a different thing. So you're calling subjectivity, style, beauty. I could go through these words and say, well, yeah, they're all basically fall into one category, and the category takes care of it. So I just say, go ahead with the fallacy against bullshit. So let's put these in the category of the argument from bullshit, and we're already done with it. It's in the category from bullshit.
Yeah, but
I don't think I need to nuance the
it's about the how. It's about how you make the same thing mean the same thing.
Well, I'm just saying it. There's no point in figuring out what the name of the bull is who shitted the shit. Okay, there's details that are just not going to be, in my opinion, constructive to the purpose. So I think they are just distractions. It's just noise. It will not make the process as efficient as it needs to be, blah, 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 blah. That's all I'm just saying. So maybe in hindsight, maybe 5 years from now, you'll agree that, oh yeah, I took out 10 of these words and it was no problem.
I would love that, but that doesn't matter, right? Yeah, so far so good. That was my list. I actually prepared some bit where I would break down the breakdown arguments, but again, I would actually need a minute or two to prepare. Do you have that?
Yeah, well, maybe just send me your list and a breakdown. Give me a chart or something, and then I can pre-edit the chart into what I think are subjects that matter. I mean, I'm still going to argue that, look, I could say the word efficiency or productivity. Maybe we could agree conceptually those are keeper words. Those are important words. And then with the word value is going to be a huge word, right? That's just too big. That's we have to define value. You can't, if you don't define value, there's no point in having the conversation, right? So you have
That's
to
the
define.
problem. For example, efficiency for a company means a different thing, and it's a very accepted meme.
No. We're talking about efficiency in the total game. Okay, there is no efficiency for the individual soccer player. So yes, the first word, I wasn't going in order of importance of these words, but clearly the first concept is you have to understand the game is not you. The game is the whole game. You're in a game. You're a player in a game. So that's the context here. So it's no what's good for the corporation. It's always what's good for the whole game over all of time. So it's obviously, I assumed you understood that is the, if people don't get that, the whole conversation's useless, right? I mean, you can't get anywhere until they understand that.
Wait a second. Someone asked for the list. I'm going to try to improvise something here.
Yeah, well, you'll have to provide it in some other form.
So, do you see it, guys?
Yeah, I just got a "fuck you, asshole" comment from one of the commenters. "Fuck you, asshole." Calls me up to say "fuck you, asshole." So that's a brain just wasting its time. You know, that you can't get a better description of wheels just spinning in the mud. You know, that somebody would actually waste their time.
Yeah.
Like something like, wow, that's really going to get to my core somehow. I'm going to totally change my life because I got a random call from Mr. Anonymous.
Sure.
Saying "fuck you, asshole." Yeah, that's going to.
Anyone can read this. I congratulate you. Here's the first draft of the list, and and here's the descriptions that are very imperfect and very improvised and reworked in an improvised fashion. Here you go. I hope that was readable.
No, that was absolute rubbish. Yeah, you actually have to put it in your computer, you know, and then download the text into something people can read and blah, 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 blah. But yes, okay. Fine. So I guess that could be another one of these, the fallacy from totally lazy. Yeah.
Well, but you can't deny this efficiency, right? I mean, come on, the process took me how long? And that was literally on air. So the argument of spontaneity was fulfilled as well.
Well, I'm just saying that, yes, you obviously don't exactly follow the list. You're not glued to it. You improvise. Fuck this rule today. Fuck that rule today. That's only a Wednesday rule. That's not a Friday rule.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what kind of rule.
A Wednesday versus a Friday rule. Okay, like you select which rules you will apply based on what day of the week it is. You see, so on Fridays you can violate certain rules, and on Wednesdays you can violate certain other rules, fallacy rules. I was making a joke. Okay, I mean, obviously you didn't get the joke, but it was a joke. It wasn't possible. That was a humorous.
Well, it was
a humorous witticism, you know, and it just didn't hit any bricks in the head. Yeah,
but we have those issues, right? We don't quite hit each other on the head.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Oh well, I don't have to make this whole bit with the scissors that I actually planned out and never prepared. So once, just 30 seconds or so. Here's the breakdown arguments. It starts with the biggest one, the dramaturgic argument. It's a whole sentence. Then the next one is the semantic, which carries more meaning, is a bigger chunk. Melodies and symbols are together in one argument. It took me a week to put them together in one category. and the fractal argument is obvious. Gary, stop waving your paper.
Well,
Come on, I'm
just
doing
saying,
important work.
I have this. I did this. Look how wrinkled and old this is. Okay, so I've already done all of this crap.
That's
So
it. That's it, Gary. You
you're-
underestimate people. People want to see the process. Okay, you should.
I'm just saying, I already have the real treasure map. Okay, so I don't need your
obviously
credit.
working, Gary. You're so fast. The progress is so fast. It's obviously working.
Well, look, where are you going? Okay, you're on my channel.
I'm on your channel.
Okay, I'm just saying you're so useless. All right, that, you know, you glue yourself to this channel to have any hope.
For the start, yes, but you could see it as me putting the anus before the carriage again. So I'm doing it in a backwards fashion as usual. I plan it out and then I do the hardest part and get to the easiest.
Yeah, well, I would like to take bets. Okay, just let's have a wager about what is the prospects of the anus wagon, versus mine. What boat's going to float the furthest?
Well, that's kind of unfair because you have this kind of Ponzi scheme where you built me in some fashion already, right? To the core philosophy, you wrung it out of me, so it kind of counts on your account. That's what your whole plan was the entire time, right?
My fault. Yes, I've already pointed that out. That all of these dysfunctionals is my failure, right? I mean, I'm making a bunch of dysfunctional people because they talk like, oh yeah, I'm an analyst. I don't do anything about it. I just criticize Gary. How
I sharpen my swords is none of your business.
Yeah, well, whatever. The point is that I acknowledge the fact that I'm not a brilliant success, but clearly my critics are as dopey a backseat driver as you can find. I mean, they're totally dysfunctional. They've never even been in the front seat. They don't even know there's a dashboard and steering wheels and speedometers. They have no fucking clue what it's like. So I just say the prospects of them successfully navigating anywhere, as the leader, as the driver, yeah, sure. Yeah, what's the odds? So I'm just saying, I wish you great success. I'm just saying that.
And I might take you up on the bet because I need that kick in the ass, right? Because I'm so lazy and so afraid. So I might take you up on that at some time, but I have to postpone it, because I'm not as confident as you are.
Yeah, well, maybe I can persuade you that you think these words are going to mean something to people, and I just don't think you can ever make them steal enough. I don't think you can ever make the word style the argument from you have too much style focus into an argument that's going to persuade somebody to think about how they're robots and they got to quit being assholes.
The whole process of naming this a list of fallacies is born from my insecurity to call them legit arguments, because they fucking are, like all of them, but that's true of the fallacies as well. They're all arguments cloaked in something, or lathered in something, or hidden in something, or they're real arguments. They're at least on a semantic level.
I would agree, but I'm still going to just pick up my piece of paper and I'd say that I've got the real arguments here, okay? And they have to do with, like evolution is the keyword, reflexes is a keyword, programming, desire, repulsion, attraction, comfort, hunger, addiction. These are the words to me that sing, okay? that say something, and they're the words, in my opinion,
down to my level,
that are going to the words you really have to make this conversation out of. These are the words describing the play on the game, the gameplay. Okay, what's happening on the field, and that's to me where you always have to stay. You have to stay on. We're attempting to figure out how to make the players aware of the game they're in, the maze they're in, and these are the maze words. These are the ones that are going to describe what the maze is made out of. It's
what I wanted to play, if you had played along nicely, I mean, to an extent you did, but if you would have fully tapped into this bullshit list, right? I would have ascribed some arguments to you and to me, like to make this kind of a mini game. And since I already prefaced it for this amount of time, I'm gonna do it anyway. I accuse you of really adhering to the argument of reality on more levels than is good for your argumentation. I can't quite express it yet, what I mean by that, but that's my prerogative as a glib idiot.
Yeah, well, I don't even know what that accusation entirely means. I mean, you're, well, yeah, I talked to this fucking guy from whatever, Switzerland or something. Where are you from? Austrian, right? Or wherever the fuck you're from. So yeah, I talked to this Austrian guy, and that was a waste of time. I'm just saying, what are you saying? I mean, what part of this are you confused in the sense that I have not declared that I have the instructions, performance instructions, and that I'm following my performance instructions. I'm clearly saying I'm still looking for I'm still writing the Rosetta Stone. I don't have the Rosetta Stone. So I can't speak perfect language. I can't make silver bullets to kill all the monsters. I haven't made the perfect argument yet. I've made a lot of very nice statements and very nice little quotable bits. I mean, I think I'm more quotable than Nietzsche. So I got lots of little good hunks of shit. But yeah, I haven't put all the hunks of shit together. So I'm not arguing that this is a finished product. I'm just arguing that the more I am slowly but surely composing a way of communicating that is going to be able to do what I hope it to be able to do eventually. It's getting better, not worse, would be my argument.
So your body of work and by extension, you are work in progress.
Yes, what I'm working on is a work in progress. I mean, what I am, who cares? I mean, I'm a mess, but I'm just saying that my task is not in the start doing it phase. It's in the how to do it phase. So I'm still constructing the how to.
What a coincidence. That's my phase as well.
Yes, I'm just saying that your phase is way behind mine.
Yeah, you got a little head start there.
Yeah.
What's the year? 1960.
Well, I'm just saying. Whatever. I'm not making.
Yeah, okay. I'm about to catch up. Nothing more, nothing less, right?
Well, I'm saying that's fine, and I'm very happy that somebody's engaging in the process and is attempting to do that. I'm just trying to save you some time. That's all. I've learned certain things through experience, and I'm just expressing. I think, okay, I know what are the important words better than you. Na.
Some time ago, I would have agreed. Now, to an extent, of course, now as well. But, first of all, main character syndrome still plaguing me, right? Second off, I want to do the same thing to you, right? That's what I meant by sharpening my swords. You are my sword, Gary, and I am yours, I hope. I mean, at some point, I'm probably become some rich famous fuck who drowns in hookers and coke, and I don't want that to hinder the time we spent here to I don't want it to be rendered useless.
Well, I don't think you can prevent that. Damn phone calls today. improve the air quality in my house. Fucking cunts.
Maybe the on-air quality.
Yeah, anyway, I just, really, there should be a law, tape recorded phone calls. It's just such bullshit. I mean, they just should shoot them. But anyway, or worse, rape them and then shoot them. Rape them and then just rape them and then rape them. You shouldn't even bother shooting them, just rape them. Put them in a rape camp. But anyway, fine. I mean, I don't want to get caught up in this crap. I mean, to me, this is personality crap. We want to talk about, what I'm gleaning out of you or what you're gleaning out of me, and how this process is helpful or not helpful. I have no idea how that's going to turn out, frankly. I'm just sort of suspect of this idea, okay, frankly, just from personal experience, that anybody's going to bring anything to my table, in my opinion, where I'm going to say, oh, I needed that. I mean, that piece fits right into my puzzle here, and now I can do a lot of other stuff because I got this piece that you helped me find. I'm just saying that the amount I have gleaned from other people in the last 10 years is pitiful. So I'm just saying they've done me no good. I'm just sorry. That's just it. I mean,
how would you wage?
I had to do all the fucking work. Nobody's doing anything to add anything to this guy. I had to come up with crap. I had to come up with, I have to come up with everything. Nobody's coming up with anything.
How would you wage the people of the last 10 years contribution to mine right now?
Well, I don't know how I would measure that. I mean, obviously different things have had an influence on you. If you've said, okay, certain individuals and their power of their arguments meant something to you. I guess some people might say Benatar's book or some other person's book did something for them, or maybe they read some Schopenhauer and they got something out of it, or some other kind of crap. I'm just saying that I don't have any Schopenhauer. I don't have any source for being a better fighter. It's like even Jack Kevorkian, as much as I love Jack Kevorkian, right? He was just saying the same thing I'm saying. So we both agree, we both found the same words and perspective, but we were both as dysfunctional in turning it into viral memes or something. I mean, his style, he threw away, from my perspective, I would say, oh, if I was running Jack Kevorkian, if I was pulling the levers, I could have pulled his levers a little better, made him a lot more powerful. And he might say the same thing about me. So people could be backseat driving me and saying, yeah, Scary, you just need to do this and this, and then you'll be super powerful. Well, maybe that's true, but how you convey that information to me has to be in some form where I recognize you as being more competent than me, and that's not likely to happen. So,
okay, I'm physically not ready for what's about to happen, and apply that statement to right over time, the whole future thingy. What can you sacrifice else? What else can you sacrifice that's in the realm of your being able to do and you're having the understanding that it's necessary? Like, that's a pretty small overlap, right? So what can you sacrifice in that realm that is actually has this viral potential? And I would wager in your case, it's what you would probably partially define as your dignity, right? You say you're jumping the hoops, but your dignity is in your way.
Well, I think I'm already human enough, so I don't think I have to do any further humiliating of myself. So I don't really buy that argument that I need to totally humiliate myself in some grander and even bolder way.
To dehumanize.
Regardless, I'm just saying I don't think I have to do that. So that's just so I don't have to sacrifice any more of my dignity. I don't think.
Sure. Totally.
Clearly, I could fix my language. Okay, clearly I can do some things to make myself less repulsive. And as you're, as you're sort of demonstrating,
Yes.
a lack of respect for somebody's aversions is not going to do the cause any good. So, it's like I'm not wearing a shirt, right? It's 86 degrees in here and I'd
Yeah.
rather not, but I'm doing it because I understand that some people might find looking at my nakedness repulsive, because I tend to find other people sort of repulsive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole hairy thing, just ew.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I would laser it away if it was easy or cheap or non-intrusive, as it sells itself sometimes. But
Yeah, well,
I'm kind of stuck with that, right?
I'm not blaming you for it. I'm just saying that it isn't beautiful. Okay, so it's just a fact, and so I'm just sort of pointing out how it doesn't make my eyes go, oh yeah, look deeper. No, it kind of makes them go, oh, don't look too deep.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing. You don't want to separate yourself from that either. I guess I'm a little further ahead in that section. Like I could muster the courage, I guess, to look at even some, I don't know, some 600, what is it, pound sack of philosophy that's probably gonna be garbage. And I don't know how to sell you this, but this isn't anything disrespectful, right? This doesn't mean as much as you maybe viscerally are tied to right now.
I'm just saying that you're taking your word list and your intelligent analysis, and you're basically right now smearing dumbass all over it. So
That's it.
Okay, so I'm just saying that that's not appealing, in my opinion. I mean, that's not going to work as a strategy. That's going to do exactly the opposite, which is it's just going to limit the capacity of your audience to listen to what you're saying, because they're just going to be distracted by the fact, oh, he's a clown. Oh, I'm supposed to just watch the big shoes and the other stuff. I'm not supposed to be paying attention. You don't dress as a clown and then do philosophy. It just doesn't happen, because the clown suit is just going to be a huge distraction, and nobody's going to make the connections with the words, and it's just a waste of time.
I kind of disagree. This clown thing, right? Right now, for everyone that gets the joke now, this is the fourth wall thingy, but in another iteration. And I see there's this two perspectives on this. I don't want to belittle your body of work, right? That's the last thing I want to do. I gained so much of it, but I'm saying there's so much there on the if you put it on scales, right? If you put it on scales, what you've done over in a serious manner, and what you could do to catch the predators that are out there. There's much more to be gained than lost, especially if you have backup of your video files. Someone just made the point, Alexander Zapata. Yeah, if your performance is charming enough, it can make people think deeper, and but that's not the entirety, right? We don't have the language to actually capture how many ways something.
I'm just saying that I look, all this crap would mean something if charming meant you're making a sacrifice and you're not being self-indulgent. But frankly, it doesn't look like that. This looks like just self-indulgence. This doesn't look like I'm doing it for the cause. Okay. You think that's what it looks like? You think that taking your shirt off and playing with your nipples is like, oh, I really struggled to do that. That really hurt me. That looks like somebody doing something on purpose that has to do with their own vanity or their own personal needs to be a whatever you call that, the opposite of a voyeur, exhibitionist. And so that's what they're doing. They're doing something personally indulgent and then saying, I'm doing it for the cause. So it just sounds like another trivialization of a real concept. You're just rationalizing. You're just rationalizing bullshit and saying, no, this is really profound bullshit. No, it's really stupid bullshit.
You're just stabbing the messenger. I'm sorry.
Whatever.
Well, keep stabbing then.
Well, whatever. Yes, I'll keep stabbing self-indulgent cunts pretending to be war heroes.
Whatever.
Yes,
You know my motives. You know how comfortable I am with this.
The fucking head, and I'll keep. Look, it's on your own channel page. What the fuck do you mean? How uncomfortable you are? What a crock of shit.
So, you think? How much time do you think it took to take this picture?
What do you think? It is some sort of magical, profound thing. You know, there's been people take their shirts off in videos all over the place. There's girls with their boobs hanging out in the videos for a reason.
Yeah, see,
that has nothing
I can't convey.
It has nothing to do with making anything an impact in any real way. I mean, if you were a chick and you did it, it would make some kind of sense. But we know that naked, shirtless guy on YouTube is about as interesting as dead plastic frog. I mean, it's just not going to be a viral video, for fuck's sake.
I don't have the capacity yet to make it that far, right? I'm finding I'm wanting to find two different approaches, and I want to merge them together. And the apparent ridiculousness of even my lame attempt in here, right? It's just some kind of preposterousness. Don't you agree?
No, I don't. I won't even dignify it with the word preposterous. It's silly. Yes, it's just a moment. It's a Monty Python kind of shticky. Let's just do something funny, and for the sake of funny. And this is a comedy show, so I mean, it just isn't useful.
So you're again stabbing messengers all over the place. Like, does this devalue everything?
Yes, I'll need somebody to translate what the fuck the message is. What the fuck is the message? Besides, let's be totally distracted. Let's just sit there and try to run up the wall. You know, let's all try to run up the wall and fail, and it'll be funny.
I don't know how I can explain multi-level persuasion differently.
It's fine. Look, it's not. I don't give a shit one way or the other. I'm just saying it's not what I'm trying to do. So you say this works. You say this is the way to communicate. Fine, do it on your channel. Okay. Well, I'm just not interested in conversation that in 1 minute had some kind of focus, and then all of a sudden we just say fuck the focus. Now let's be naked and talk orgies or something. I'm not interested in that channel. That's not the channel I'm interested in having. It's not one I think is going to work. It's not going to make this channel any more useful to people. It's just going to get in the fucking way, in my opinion.
Okay, so far so good. Have any closing statements?
No, that was enough of a close. I mean, I'm sorry it closed this way because yes, it's sorry. I don't know how you thought this was going to impress me. Like, wow, look at that. He really innovated. It's not much of an innovation. Just didn't impress me as an innovation. Wow.
I never thought of that. After the fact, retroactively.
Well, I don't think so, but whatever. But okay, fine. Right. You have any last words?
Sure. Learn from me. Learn
Yeah.
from me, Gary.
Well,